What's going on? What's going on? This is your brother Basheer Jones, man. Welcome to BasheerSpeaks Podcast. I'm so excited to be here. We thank the Creator for another day of life. Despite what's going on in your lives, the blessing to have life. And we are conscious of the fact that we are vessels of the Creator, of the Maker, man. Well, we got some very special guests. We started a conversation last week, Gwen and I, and we were talking and having some good dialogue about the pathway to a woman's heart, and it kind of just transitioned all over the place. Hopefully it was beneficial to you, definitely beneficial to me. And Gwen said, you know what, I'm bringing another beautiful lady with me. And I said, well, I got to bring one of my best friends here with me as well so that we can continue this dialogue. Gwen, first of all, how you doing?
I'm wonderful.
You doing good?
I'm thankful. I'm great. I'm wonderful.
Good.
Yes,
well, introduce us to your guests. Who do you have with us?
We have Miss Melanie. welcome to Pathway to a Woman's Heart.
Thank you for inviting me.
Are you ready? You ready, sister?
I'm ready.
Okay, all right now. Well, I got my brother here with me, Dub. Man, introduce yourself, man.
Well, my name is Anthony, man, and this is one of my, not just my friend, but man, one of the nearest and dearest people to me. We've known each other for a long time, man, but when I found out that what this conversation was about, man, I really had to rethink a lot of things, man. So I appreciate you having me, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
No doubt about it. Well, Gwen, we kind of ended off the conversation last week. We talked about a lot of different things, and I think that this is a conversation between men and women. We usually don't have these dialogues out in the open. And just to let everyone know, the intention of these conversations, though it'll be fun and though it may get tense at times, the intention is to strengthen our families, to strengthen the understanding between one another. That is the key to the conversation. So even if it kind of goes somewhere else, we're going to try to bring it right back to that. Gwen, last week we were discussing the pathway. We were talking about manhood. We were talking about womanhood. What are some of the things that you thought about after the conversation that made you say, you know what, I want to come back to that?
Well, I watched the replay, and in watching the replay, I felt like, and listen, I love the fact, one of the things I love about me is that I'm able to take accountability for things. If I feel like I'm wrong, if I feel like I could approach it differently, and watching the replay, I said, man, there were a couple things I needed to touch on and be a little bit more clear about. And I wasn't doing I did a lot of active listening, but in a couple places I didn't. And I didn't hear you clearly to answer in the way that I needed to answer to represent fully for the women. So that was one of the things. And I was like, part 2 is on and popping. So after I watched it, I was like, oh man, we got to go back. Like tomorrow at sunrise. Let's go.
Flat out.
Yeah.
Dub, man, what do you think is one of the biggest issues of communication between men and women?
One of the biggest issues in communication is just, really understanding the current climate. I think a lot of times as men and women, we don't really understand what each other are going through when we go out into the world. Your home and your personal relationships are one thing, but then how we interact in the world is another. And if we are not taking that into consideration when we are, dealing with each other, then, we have a difficult time. They say every act of communication is a miracle. So, it's not just the words that you say to someone, but the anticipation of their actions and their needs. So if you don't really understand what people are going through, it's almost impossible to communicate with them effectively.
What's your thoughts about that?
I agree. A lot of times what happens is you are looking at things from your perspective and not trying to see it from a different perspective. Because everybody has their own points of view. So if you just take the time to step out of yourself and try to look at it from a different perspective, I think communication will be much clearer.
In your past, as you've gone through your life, what have been some of the struggles of communication for you?
What it boils down to is just pride.
From you?
Yeah, from me and from people I used to talk to, and it's really been a while. I'm single, free and clear now. But
Well, that's
it
why you
boils-
came on the show, because you you can say whatever you want to say now, huh? Ain't that something? But go ahead, sister.
No, I mean I'm more mature, and I can look back and see mistakes that I made and the choices that I made that affected relationships that I really shouldn't have been in the first place.
That's interesting.
That's
deep. Why do you think that we get into relationships? I guess it's all an individual. I mean, everybody can kind of jump in. The relationship that you've been in, or, you know, what made you stay in it or even get in the first place when you knew from the beginning, or did you know from the beginning that it wasn't, you know, that's just for everybody. Did you know that wasn't the relationship you should have been in?
I've done that before, and I think in that space, I decided to take a risk. I decided to step outside of my normal self. I'm a Virgo, and if you're familiar with Virgos, we're very particular. We're very, restricted, and we have our particular ways. And it takes us a minute to get into somebody enough to bring them inside of those walls. And I took a risk in that, and it was cool and it was great. But then I realized that it just didn't. There was something about it that just wasn't working. Ultimately, the communication is important. Communication, being able to say what you're thinking, how you're feeling, all of those things are important. And when that stops, when that doesn't happen, and it doesn't give you an opportunity to adjust, then that just is a recipe for a disaster in a relationship, in a business ship, in a friendship, in any kind of ship. So I would go with that.
Communication is interesting, man, because we all have different experiences. We all have grown up seeing different forms of communication, some healthy, some unhealthy. And I found myself that, whether it's businesses, friendships, whatever, that I can't place my expectations of communications on you. You understand? I can't expect for you to communicate in the way that I desire for you to communicate. I can express to you, hey, listen, I don't like when you do that. When you do that, it makes me feel this type of way. But what I would like for people to understand, and what I had to get free within my own self, is that I have the power in my own two legs. I got the power in my heart and mind to not be somewhere in which I'm not happy in. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're an evil person, none of that. It just means that, this doesn't make me comfortable. You know what I'm saying? And I don't need to be somewhere where I don't feel comfortable. And unfortunately, we live in a society where, as men, we don't have the opportunity to be as vulnerable about our emotions as anyone else. Because when we express ourselves, it's not taken, in my opinion, it's not taken as seriously or even appreciated as much when there's spaces for women to communicate their deepest feelings. There's small spaces for men, up the barbershop, you know what I'm saying, your best friend, but like no one really speaks to us. And I think that's why you see the highest suicide rates being men. You understand? That's why you see the highest form of depression is in men. There's no space for us to be vulnerable.
Right.
But isn't there? I mean, if you're in a space that makes you comfortable, it gives you a sense of peace. You feel good in that space, and it's an open forum for you to be able to express yourself, and then you really kind of choose not to, and your communication style changes or is non-existent. You're not communicating. Then how can you get healing in that space? How can you express yourself if you're not communicating?
Right. Well, excuse me, not that. But what I would say is, just to kind of go back to the point that you made, Basheer, is where does that start? Where does it start that men and women are kind of taught to express themselves differently? For a little boy, he is taught differently than a young lady. She is allowed to be more expressive. We call it emotional. Whereas the young boy falls and everybody tells him to get back up and not to really show how he feels. So of course that's going to create a turmoil for you as you enter your manhood And on the one hand, you want to express yourself, but on the other hand, you know that the society is not going to give you the same room that or same leeway that the young lady has. So she can be a way, and the expectation even that she has of you as a man is to accept how she is, accept her for who she is. But you have to conform to what everyone else thinks you should be.
Well, when you say express yourself, who are you expressing yourself to? What you say society, is it a relationship? Is it a specific person that you're expressing yourself to and they're not taking you seriously? I don't know what you mean by when you want to express yourself to who. Who are you trying to express yourself to?
Well, I think it's anybody. As a young person, as a kid, you are just, I don't even know if you have a direction for your expression. You just feel the need to get out your emotion, right? We tell the young man, don't you cry, don't you cry. But he could be expressing just however he feels about any given thing. But everybody, the collective, it's indiscriminate when it comes to the people that are going to tell him how he should behave. Right? So anybody that he expresses himself to will give him the same response. Whereas for our young women, we all say, well, that's a daddy's girl. So what that implies is that the father or a male figure in her life is going to come to her defense in defense of her emotion, no matter what it is, right? If daddy's girl is right or wrong, daddy is going to defend her. Whereas if the young man is wrong, there's a good chance that even his own parents will make him be accountable for his actions.
But are we talking about specific relationships? Are we talking about a relationship between a man and a woman, a husband and a wife, where the man doesn't feel like he can express himself to his woman? Because then that's a whole different issue.
Well, the point he's making is that you have to ask yourself where it starts.
Right.
It starts as children. It starts with, our expectations from our children. Like we tell our daughters, it's just a collective understanding, and this is what he's saying. We tell our daughters, this is what you should expect from society. This is what you deserve. But we don't have those same conversations with our sons. We don't tell our sons, you deserve to have the best woman ever, whatever the case. We don't tell them that. We don't tell them that. So So in turn, we don't say, listen, don't you sleep with anybody, because everybody don't deserve. We tell our girls that. Don't everybody deserve that, blah, blah, blah. But we don't express that to so then these sons who was called little man by their mothers and heard their mothers call their fathers big boys, right, grow up to really begin to be attracted to the same women that they was raised by. So now he has a woman that's just like his mother, who disrespect. I want every woman to ask himself a real question.
Come on, brother.
I mean, a serious one.
So,
Would you, not y'all, okay? Your cousins.
Yeah.
Would you want your son to have a woman like you? Would you want your son to deal with a woman like you?
I would. But
Of course you
okay. So I just want to be clear. I know we weren't talking about me specifically, but yes, I would, because I understand the differences between and how to respect men and people. Period. So that's
No, but let's not say people. Period. See, when it comes to what men need, we want to generalize it. No.
No, I said
Specifically, men. Speak
Yes.
to us as men, not people in general, but men.
yes, I would. To answer the question, yes, I would. I would want my son to have a woman like me, but I understand the question that you're asking, and the collective, in the general sense, there's a lot of disrespect. So no, there's a lot of people who don't understand what that means to speak to a man. They don't understand what it means to have a conversation and be respectful of young boys, young men, to men. I see it all the time.
Sister Gwen, let me make a statement to you. Do you know collectively, you can go into most women's households, and we have heard people have conversations with their daughters and say, you don't need no man. Okay?
Yeah.
I have never heard ever men say to their sons, you don't need no woman.
Sure.
I never heard that before.
There's
We
a
don't
clear-
never say.
there's a clear divi-
We don't
there's
say
a
that.
clear
So
divide.
what is it about society that will trick our women into believing that we are not needed? But we don't do that. We don't teach our sons that you don't need no woman. We don't teach our sons that.
Go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
can I just say that I have never ever heard that growing up, that I don't need a man.
That's a blessing.
I have never heard that I don't need a man ever.
Have you ever heard? I mean, because you live in America. Okay, you never heard this before. You hear it in music.
In music, but in my household, I have never been told that I do not need a man. Use your own gifts, use your own talents, and be able to take care of yourself. But I've never ever heard that you do not need to be in a relationship with a man. It's okay for you just to be out here and be alone.
Right. Can I add this, and it might stir up the pot a little
Please do.
bit. But there's always a tendency of women to argue the exception as the rule. Right? Like they will take their perspective and then make it the perspective of everybody in a conversation with a man. So if you ask a question, well, I have to, when I speak for men, I'll speak for men, just men in general. Hey, this is what we do. But if you ask a woman the same question, she'll say, well, I don't do that, so I don't know about them. That could be them. I don't know. I've never seen it, but I don't do it. And that's very true. There are things that you specifically don't do. But, you are here with us. We are all here. We observe how men are, and we speak on that. I think, it might be protection, and I understand that. That's the women are a tribe, so they protect each other. But they always argue the exception as the rule.
I hear what you're saying, and I just did that. And the reason why I did that is because, like Melanie mentioned, I didn't grow up hearing that either. I didn't grow up hearing like, you don't need a man. Da, da, da. No, I didn't hear that, so that wasn't my experience. So it's hard for me to try to defend or even be in that same mind space, right? Maybe you should have some people on that have that
Right.
particular opinion and that viewpoint to give you a fair, real good assessment of that. That's not my experience. So it's like I don't subscribe to that understanding, and I come from a high vibrational place in regards to black men, period. So it's just, that's how I came up. So I'm aware of it because I'm in the world, and I understand that there are people who say, girl, you don't need a man, you don't need a man for da-da-da-da. And I think that that's just because there's a generational hurt there. Ultimately, that's what it comes from, is somebody was hurt and they said, you get out of here, you keep it moving, we'll figure it out, and da-da-da-da. And they figured it out, and then they told their daughters, you don't need a man to do anything, you watch me do it, and you can see that I can do it. And so it gets passed down. That hurt gets passed down.
One of the things I hate to hear. I hate to hear women say Happy Father's Day to themselves.
Yeah,
I'm disgusted by that.
Because it doesn't make sense.
It
I
doesn't.
don't like it either.
So we recognize that we may not be like every other man, or you all may not be like every other woman. But we lived amongst it. Over 75% of our households and our communities are led by women. Right. And let me say this. Don't tell me that men left a household because they were just terrible men. Some men left because they had to make a choice. Do I go to jail, okay? Or do I live to see my children another day?
Sure.
We have to change this mindset that all men, they just left, they no good, they left because they didn't care about their children, their babies, and children are being raised hating their fathers, and in turn, as they grow older and learn more about the story of their father, they grow in contempt for their mothers.
For sure.
So my advice to women in general is, you not the victim all the time. You not the victim. Sometimes you victimize. You are not the abused all the time. Sometimes you are the abuser. You are verbally abusive, you are emotionally abusive, you're financially abusive, and sometimes physically abusive. But there is no space, like Anthony brought up, there's no space for us to talk about our abuse. So we're silent about our abuse. We're silent about it as men, right? Our children, I ask my students, I'm not making this up. I'm not speaking a different language. We're teachers, so we teach inside schools. How many of you have heard your mothers, grandmothers, and aunties tell your uncles, fathers, and grandfathers, get the hell out my house?
Well, why would you ask that question to a child? Why would that even be discussed why would you even have that discussion with the child?
Whether you want to have the discussion or not, there's children living adult experiences. Okay,
but
listen, hold on. Let me answer your question. There are children living adult experiences, and you don't have to have it. It don't mean it ain't being had. The conversation. Listen. You got to hear me out.
I'm
okay,
listening to you.
the conversation is being had. Your babies they listening to the rap music that's having adult conversations. They're going to sleep listening to YouTube, playing games, and they cursing each other. They're having adult conversations. We need to have those conversations with our children because you can't save them from a world that they don't understand.
And I understand that, but it has to be balanced. You just can't ask them, well, have you heard your mama, your auntie, your grandmother? What about your father or your uncle? It has to be balanced.
That's where the lack of imbalance is. Your response, with all due respect, your response is the sign of imbalance. Because every time that a man wants to speak about what women have placed him, the feelings that he has experienced, you have a woman who says, well, what about us?
It's
no.
It's
listen
not
to
a balance.
Sister, you got to listen to
I hear exactly what you're saying.
It's not a balance. It's not a
not.
balance in the churches. It's not a balance in the masjids. It's not a balance in music. There's no balance where men can express their vulnerabilities. And when we do express, because it's my show. When we do express our vulnerabilities, there's a woman who says, what about the women? It's
right, exactly. It has to be, what about all? This is a collective conversation with women and with men. It has to be a collective conversation. What about the women? What about the men? How are we going to come together and fix this? It can't be, well, what your auntie say? What your mama say? You cannot do that because that's putting negative thoughts into a child's head. If you say, well, how many of you heard your mama and your auntie cuss your uncle?
Okay, so it's not the negative thought to hear your mother. Hold on, listen to this. Just listen to that for 1 second.
I hear you.
It's not negative for me to see my mother kick my father out, but it's negative for me to recognize it.
Okay, and I understand that, but there's
layers.
I want
you to stay there for a second.
Yeah, but there's layers. Why is your mother? Why is the woman kicking the? Why is the woman kicking the man out? We just having a conversation.
For sure.
Why? I mean, if he's doing the right thing, if he's being faithful, if he's taking care of the kids.
I'm going to give you a better question. Why isn't the man in a position to never be kicked out? That's the real question. Because as a man, you should never be able to be kicked out of nowhere that you are, brother. So the question goes back to the conversation is how are we raising our boys to be independent, to be strong, to be able to take care of their families? Because the reality is, if your grandmother kicks your grandfather out, she can never kick them out of something that belongs to him, right? Because if it belongs to me, which in turn belongs to my family, because you don't have, in most cases, men kicking women out. That's not the conversation. I've never seen my father, aunts, uncles get out my house. I never seen that before.
Why are men getting kicked out the house?
Because it ain't theirs. That's why.
No, but what is happening? I mean, if that's what I'm saying. We have to be specific. It just can't, stuff like that just can't be generalized. Why would somebody be kicked out the house? What type of environment is that? Is that a loving environment? Is he loving his wife? Is he loving his children? What type of environment leads to someone being thrown out of somewhere?
Have you ever said anything that you regret?
I've said a lot of things that I regret.
Okay, so in an emotional state, you've said things that you may not
That's
fully
too
believe,
easy.
right?
It's too easy. You.
I'm asking a question. Have you ever said anything in an emotional state?
I've said a lot of things that I've regretted.
Okay, so there are things. So there are times when women have said things that they did not fully believe, but said it during a time of high emotion. How many women have kicked men out and let them in the next day?
That's
Same
petty.
night.
Those are petty relationships. We're talking about grown-up relationships. We're talking about relationships with love, with respect, with kindness, with care. That's the relationships I'm talking about. The stuff that you are mentioning is petty type stuff, and those people shouldn't even be in relationships with each other. That's where the problem is. That's the root. You connected with the wrong person.
Well, that's why there are no relationships. Like if we, of course, we could talk about these things in the ideal way, right? But in relationships, there's a power dynamic, and specifically in Black relationships, there is the presence of the invisible boyfriend. That is the invisible boyfriend equals or tips the playing field in the favor of the woman, and that is white supremacy. A black woman knows that if this man is not complying with her orders, she can call the police. She knows that if he is not giving her what she wants, she can go to child support.
Look, y'all, I don't know who y'all dealing with.
I don't know what country you live in.
No, but
Where
listen,
you at?
but get those
Listen, there's
women.
a balance
those are the
between
women that you
there's
need
an
on the show.
optimist and there's a pessimist.
You have to get those
and in
women
the middle,
on the show.
it's a realist.
Get those.
This is the society that
no,
we live
but,
in.
Okay, but what I'm saying is for it to be truly balanced and for us to have a conversation that makes sense to me, you have to get those women on the show who picking up the phone, calling the police on their man and throwing their man out.
Well,
And
you have
to
relatives.
get those men on. Have you ever been thrown out?
You know why?
Have you ever been thrown out?
And can't nobody throw me out of nothing that belonged to me.
Have you ever been thrown out?
It belongs
So
to me.
Where are the men?
But
Where
I
are
have
these
a lot of
men?
relatives. I have a lot of family members, and they all have been. Many of them have been thrown out.
At the end
Many of the people in the community that we serve have been thrown out.
I mean, what part of this, I really want you to ask yourself a question. What part of this angers you? The part, hold on.
Okay.
The part that us talking about it, or the part that it exists?
No, the part that
Does it anger you that what we're talking about is a collective understanding amongst black men?
no, what angers me is that you need to have those people on the show. I'm thinking about we're talking about love. We're talking about respect. We're not talking about well, mama threw daddy out the house and grandpa hitting grandma upside the head for years, but she still stayed. I didn't know we was gonna have those types of.
Welcome to America.
But I understand that.
Welcome to
but
the.
I don't know
welcome
people
to the
like that. I don't have
welcome
relationships like that.
Welcome
and I don't know
to
'em.
the black experience
I don't-
in America. This is not something new. We have been traumatized
I
as
understand
black
that.
people and poor people in this country.
I understand
No,
that.
you have to be able to listen to be able to
But
understand.
I hear,
okay,
I hear everything
even
you're
if you
saying.
haven't dealt with it, it's a reality. Even if it wasn't your children, it's some children that your children went to school with.
And I understand.
Guess
that
what?
completely.
You just talking. You're not listening.
But
all right?
we doing the same thing. We
Right.
going back and forth.
Right. So that's the problem though. The problem is in our society, especially amongst black men and black women, there's this power struggle. There is no power struggle.
I'm not
in my
struggling.
house. There's no power struggle.
I'm not struggling with you.
Right?
It's all love.
Right.
It's
So it
it's
can't
all
be love without understanding. It can't be love without speaking the truth about what we're dealing with.
But what I'm
we're
saying is.
well, you can't.
I'm
you
sorry.
Can't.
Okay.
It's okay, but
Okay.
you're not doing active
Yeah.
listening.
No, not right now.
I
I'm
know.
not. I admit that.
But that's the problem
Okay.
in our community.
Okay.
Is that when men express their pain, there has to be this struggle that no, this is not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you this is what's happening.
Okay,
Then
but
you
I'm expressing my pain too.
But I'm telling you but you're expressing your pain in the middle of me expressing mine.
Okay.
That's the point of the.
Okay.
That's the point of the
Okay,
problem.
I'm sorry. I'm over.
Is that men cannot express their pain without women wanting to express their pain in the middle of us expressing our pain. Like, sit in that for a second. That we have been verbally abused, emotionally, physically, spiritually. No, you didn't do it. But guess what? You got some aunties that did it.
Okay.
You got some cousins that did it.
We have too.
Okay, and we do too.
Okay.
So that has been our experience. So we cannot move forward without recognition of the pain.
I recognize it.
You can't heal first.
I recognize it. I recognize it completely. I recognize it.
You recognize it completely?
I recognize it completely. But I'm just saying, why does it always have to go towards negative? I mean, it just seems like it.
So
it
healing
always
is
go-
negative?
No, no healing.
Recognizing is negative?
No, it's not healing. But healing is painful.
Pain is okay.
Right, and I know that because I'm going through it now.
I know
But
it.
what I'm saying is that I don't know somebody who just got thrown out the house just for the
Let me
hell
just
of
walk
it.
you down Huff and St. Clair
Okay,
and
but
Superior
I'm not
and
saying it
Buckeye and
doesn't happen.
Kingsman.
But I'm not
Right.
saying it doesn't
And
happen.
the majority of our babies who are in Cleveland Metropolitan School District have
That's
experienced this.
But I'm not
so we
saying
can't.
that.
We can't heal the situation by saying it ain't happened in my house. No,
That's
you
what
have
I'm
to be able to recognize the pain. This is what's going on in our community. The African proverb said the universe will always be off balance as long as the home is off balance. This is what's going on. And Anthony brought up a beautiful point, which is that what you call the boyfriend, the
Invisible.
invisible boyfriend,
Okay.
which is the system.
Right? Okay.
The same system that says that empowers a woman to say, I'm gonna kick you out of my house. Why? Because I get services, government services, with you not being here. But this is the same system that enslaved us back during the time of slavery. It's the same thing.
Okay.
And whether you want to acknowledge it or not,
I acknowledge it completely.
doesn't mean that it's not impacting us.
I'm not saying that it does not impact us. I'm just saying I'm not saying it does not happen. Okay, how about this? What's the remedy?
The remedy is not acknowledging it.
I acknowledge it. I know it happens.
You're skipping it.
I know but it didn't happen in my household. But I acknowledge it.
Tell me what didn't happen in your household, because you keep saying that.
My parents got a divorce, but nobody got thrown out. I didn't see any fighting. No one told me that I shouldn't be with a man.
Okay.
No one belittled men. No one physically abused me. None of that.
That's a blessing.
But I'm not. That's not discounting
you know that. You know that's a blessing, right?
I know that I am truly blessed. But what I'm saying is, we keep on talking about this. It's like we beating a dead horse. My question
this horse ain't dead.
What's
it's
the remedy?
running.
This horse is alive, running, and healthy.
What's the remedy? I mean, that's just like talking about racism. Well, let's have a discussion about racism. We done talked enough. We done marched. We done threw bricks. What is the remedy? What is the remedy to the problem? That's what I want to get. I want to get at the remedy.
So let me say.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's good. It's necessary. But the remedy is not acknowledging it. You think that you're acknowledging it, but you're not.
I do.
You're not acknowledging it. You want to skip past it. You want to because it hurts. But you got to go through the pain of it in order to get to the solution. The fact is that dead horse you're talking about, that son of a gun is alive and it's healthy. Racism ain't something that happened yesterday. It's alive and it's healthy. The abuse of men is not something that happened yesterday. It is alive and healthy. And our children are growing up and they're seeing it.
But what's the remedy? I'm just saying, so you said that I'm not acknowledging it. How can you make that assessment? What do I need to show you that, to prove that I acknowledge it?
To being silent. And being willing to listen.
So just hear. You want me to hear and just be quiet?
No, not hear. You got to feel it. But being able to listen to the pain that we are experiencing.
I feel it.
Because what condition?
I'm glad you feel it.
What condition do you believe? Like when a man approaches you, or when the man enters this dating space with you, what condition do you think he's in? Like, do you think that he is a complete, healed, well-meaning, put together man? Because of course we all, that's your game face when you're dating. I'm only gonna show you my best qualities initially, so I'm gonna show you that. But ultimately, you're gonna have a problem. You acknowledge that, right?
I do.
So where do those problems come from? Our relationship from its inception is rooted in trauma.
I understand.
So we can never get to, just what's the problem? That's almost like saying, well, when you come to me, my man, be completely together. Don't have no problems, don't have no issues, don't have no trauma.
I don't think that that's what she's saying at
Thank
all.
you.
I think that what's happening is that there's a compounding issue over issue over issue over issue. And I think that what Melanie is trying to say is, okay, we recognize that there is an issue and it stemmed from this broken space, these broken places. Okay, now we're in this adult space. We're communicating, we're in a
Broken
relationship.
adult space.
Right, because
Broken adult space, because everybody is in their human experience, right? We have all our traumas and we have all these things going on. No, you're not going to come to each other completely whole and healed and all of that. You can heal together. But where is that open dialogue for him to say, what I can hear you saying is that you don't have a space, collectively black men don't have a space within a feminine space to say, this is what I'm experiencing, this is the type of pain that I'm in, and
we don't even, and let's take, so I know we got comments on YouTube. If there's comments, Stephanie, please let us know. But we don't even have that space in our women.
Right.
I mean, listen,
That's
we don't.
But
Listen.
yes, when you do,
I'm not talking what we do. I'm talking about this is a perfect moment. This is a perfect example.
Okay.
All right. Melanie's a beautiful person. All right. And she don't mean no harm. But this is the space that we're in because it's so much of a burden on our women. There's a serious burden on our women to be, in some cases, to play some manly roles. Right. There's that existence that's there. But we are dealing with something that we are now trying to be comfortable in discussing and to talk about. Mm-hmm. And you can't just say, I come to my issues that, forget your issue. Give me a solution.
No,
Yeah.
okay,
hold on.
but
That's
you take
dismissive.
but
No,
okay,
but
but I'm
we
sorry.
can't do that.
Okay, but that's not
We can't do that.
that's not what I meant. Okay, this is okay. Let me make it
But
clear.
by the time you make it clear, you've already lost us. And I'm not
Okay.
saying this is a situation now. I'm just
Okay.
saying in general.
Okay.
For every woman that's out there tuned in.
Okay.
When a man comes and is striving to be vulnerable with you because he like you, he feeling you, and you understand, no man's gonna give you the full book. He's gonna give you his introduction and maybe chapter 1 and maybe chapter 2 and see how you deal with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when he is giving you his story, the last thing you want to do is make him feel that you just like the world that he's trying to run from.
But-
he doesn't need to, listen, sis.
Okay.
He doesn't need, it's okay, I'm gonna give you his word. He doesn't need to, all right? He doesn't need to go out into the world and battle and come home and battle you.
But why do you think it's a battle? Okay, let me just make it clear. What I'm saying is that I feel your pain. I feel it and it hurts my heart. And I want you to feel mine, and let's work on this so we can heal it and help heal a nation. Now, I know that I might be talking and not communicating clearly, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I feel your pain. And I know it's a lot of pain and hurt and stuff going on in households, but let's heal this thing.
How do you heal it?
And that's my question.
You heal it by acknowledging it.
I feel it.
Listen what Malcolm said. This was what
feel
Malcolm
it.
X said. He said something beautiful. He said, there is no progress in America. If a man stabs you in your back 9 inches and you pull the knife out 6 inches, this is not progress. You have to pull the knife all the way out before you can heal the wound. America won't even recognize that the knife is there. This is our situation. So we don't even have a space to speak to our own women about the struggles and things that we have dealt with as children and so forth and so on. So if you want to move forward, it's not like let's skip and get to the remedy. No. One of the first things that doctors ask you when you go to the doctor is, tell me about your family medical history. Because what your granddaddy dealt with, you can deal with too. My mother passed away from cancer. My grandmother passed away from cancer. My auntie passed away from cancer. So guess what I had to do? I couldn't say, well, shit, cancer was something that happened. No, I had to take me a test to make sure that I ain't had those same genes.
And I understand that.
So if we can deal with medical issues, don't you know that we have some spiritual issues that our grandparents dealt with that we dealing with today? Whether it's
that's the whole thing.
alcoholism,
Exactly.
right? Whether it's abuse.
Exactly.
We still, right, sis? So we got, so this world has made our women tough, man.
It's not.
This world has made our women, some of our women, callous.
It's not tough.
What is it?
This is sadness. This is feeling your pain. This is a action, a reaction. This is how you feeling. That's what that is. That's what I'm doing is I'm feeling how you feeling. Like this is messed up.
I like that. That was deep. That was good.
I mean, I can't. There's no other way to explain it. I'm not dismissing it, but I feel it. But when you go to the doctor, he don't keep on asking you what your medical history is. He said, okay,
Here's your remedy.
here's the remedy. Take this and check back with me in 6
You know
months.
what would have been more powerful would be for you to say, I feel it. Initially.
I didn't say, okay. I
She
thought
said
I
that
did.
initially.
I thought I did.
Yeah,
I
she
thought
said
I
that
did.
initially,
I thought I did.
no, she didn't. Rewind. Initially, what would have been great to say, you know what? I feel your pain. Because that's what you want from us. From a man, you want us to be able to hear your pain, acknowledge your pain, especially if I was the one that caused it. I get it. I acknowledge it. I apologize. And I'll try my best to do something differently if it's opposite of my nature. Now, I may be doing something that's my nature, that makes me happy to do. This is what I enjoy doing. This is what makes me happy. This is what I'm going to do. At that point, you have to make a choice and say, that doesn't make me happy, so I got to go into a different direction. You can't stay there and be like, you're not doing this, you don't care about a relationship, and da-da-da-da. It's like, listen, I showed you my colors. This is who I am. You can't continue to beat me down, right, and make me feel like I'm less than a man or less than anything. First of all, I can't even stand when I hear women say, you less than a man. You ain't in no position to tell no man to be a man, first of all.
Never heard a woman say that, but I understand
Man, I
it
need to
goes
take you
on.
to my...
I understand it
my
goes
cousin.
on, but I've never heard anybody say
You gotta
that.
be my cousin, man.
I mean, hey, it happens though, and we know that. I recognize
You know it happens,
it. I
though,
know,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
I understand that these. Go
Where you
ahead.
live
yeah,
at?
yeah.
That's
You
the
live in Cleveland?
exception.
Yes.
You live in, no, you don't. You flew in from heaven to be here.
Yeah, that's the exception
Yeah,
to the
clean it
rule.
up. 'Cause we was, I don't know.
Yeah. At the end of the
That's the
day, at the end of
exception,
the day, we all have these traumas and these things that we have to deal with, and our collective conversation is ultimately saying that we are hurting and we need to be heard. We're not being heard. We're not being felt.
Women are not the only ones being hurt. Men are being hurt.
Oh
every
no, I
day.
didn't. Yeah, I'm not suggesting
Right.
that we're the only ones. I'm just saying that when we have these conversations, when we're having this kind of dialogue, we have to open the space up to say, well, how can we help? How can we assist? And giving us real, tangible.
Once you ask us that.
I did. I said,
the-
how
Was that a
can we?
question?
Yeah, it was. I said, how
Well,
can
Dale,
we
you go
help?
first, Dale. What's your thoughts on what?
Well, I would say that, every few years, every 20 years, there's a paradigm shift. That shift is oftentimes driven by economics, is driven by politics, and what happens is things don't work the way they used to. Some things don't work, some things do. Sure. And a lot of times when we are adjusting to that paradigm shift, to the new reality, a lot of times we have to figure out what worked for us, what culture can we keep in place that protects us, and then also what we need to do to share power in this new paradigm shift. So a lot of times, what we have now is, there is a lot of a women's type of movement, where women, are looking to, get the power that in a lot of cases they've never had. They want power in the workplace. They're looking for, their place in the home, and some things don't work for them and some things do. But I think what has to happen is there still has to be a recognition of what may be the messaging for all nationalities, for all people, and what works specifically for us as Black people. What works specifically for us, it may not be the same thing that's happening in other households. Sure. And we don't get to hear their problems. We don't know how they are addressing their issues and how they're dealing with each other, because their culture tells them that this is not something that we talk about externally. So I think, to kind of go back to what Basheer is saying, the trauma is not the focus, but it has to be dealt with specifically. It has to, but I also, within that healing, I have to recognize and I have to listen, right? Because a lot of times what happens is we hear, but we don't listen. We are hearing for the words. We are hearing the words that trigger us. And after that, no other listening takes place, because you want to address desperately the word that triggered you, right? And a lot of times that's what we do to each other. There are words that we are carrying around with us in our bag.
Listen to respond.
And you, as soon as you hear one of those words that trigger you, that's where you go. And a lot of times that's going to make somebody else defensive. And so now within this new paradigm shift, we still keep the same broken relationships. So we just have to understand where we are, to really look with respect about another person's issue, but also, understand where we need to go.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful. I think that in the pathway to healing, for the sake of our children, we have to go into a room, close the door, and we got to, put everything onto the table. This is the pain that we've experienced. And I think that as men, our pain isn't heard. And, without someone saying, well, what about my pain? It's like, can I talk about my pain for 1 second and find some healing in my pain? Because we're going through it. We have lived in this society that have tried their best to destroy us. And unfortunately, with all due respect, sometimes the greatest tool of white supremacy has been the women in our households, man. And women have tore down more men than you could ever imagine. I'm not saying that's always the case, but something happened to me, right? Like, I hated my father. I hated my father growing up, all right? And I just thought that every eviction notice, you understand, every hungry night, I blamed him for it. And not until I came to a point where I said, you know what? As a father, he made his choice. And even though that mother that I love, who I would give my life for, she still is a human being. And she may have said something or did something to him that he couldn't take. I just don't know. but I gave him a space to be in his human self and not have higher expectations for him. And once I did that, I was able to free myself. Because the only thing I ever wanted to be was not my father. And somebody told me, an elder told me, he said, yo, the day you woke up, you already was not your father. So you can get past that goal. Now you can be free. And then, because what that did, sis, because I didn't want to be my father, I took things I would have never took before. I took abuse I would have never took before. I stayed in places that I should have been left because I thought I didn't want to be my father, so let me remain in. There's men right now who are in relationship, and I know women. I know there's women too, but there's men in relationships right now solely because they don't want their children to have the same experiences that they had. Should that be sufficient to stay and be in an abusive relationship? Absolutely not. But that's what men are going through. So if they're going through it, they're passing that trauma to their children. Because guess what? Our children know. The children see daddy being abused, mommy being abused. And then, you know what I'm saying, mommy and daddy stay together for us. The children tell you, don't stay together for us because we happier when y'all apart than when y'all together. Right? So we have to be able to have these conversations and be able to leave and say, okay, what's the next steps? For me, I'm going to say the first thing is for us to be able to have these conversations, to not walk out the room being more hateful than others. So you, my sister, even though we got a little tense a little bit, and I thought you had a pistol in that green purse over there, so I kind of chilled out. But you know what I mean? I want you to know that these conversations are important, and that even if we haven't dealt with it, there's people around us who have, and they have an effect on us. That man, the man, you single now, but one day, you know what I'm saying, if it's your intentions, you're going to find a great man. He's going to come with baggage.
I understand
right?
That. Right. And I'm going to feel it. I'm going to actually feel, and I want to look for a remedy. I'm trying to figure out how to fix it.
Yeah.
That's my goal. I want to be the doctor to fix it because I don't like feeling it.
You don't like feeling what?
Feeling other people's pain. I can feel it.
Oh, okay. That's you the type of person. Okay.
I can feel it.
That's a gift from God.
So that's what I'm saying. We have to look for a remedy. It's all love. I don't have a pistol in my purse.
Yes, you do.
No, but I would never leave out of here being upset. We having a healthy debate.
Yeah, it's important.
But I do need to listen. I do need to stop and listen and not talk over
we
you.
need you. That's the thing this system has beat down your man. Okay? This system has beat down your man. Listen, the majority of people in jails is us. You understand? The majority of the violence that take place as far as homicides is us. You know what I mean? We try to get into the system, get jobs. It's a ceiling in certain places and spaces where we can't go, but they let you go, right? There's a serious battle that we are facing, particularly as black men, but overall as men in general. And the last thing we want from our woman, and I'm not saying black woman, white woman, just your woman, whoever your woman is that you lay down with, you want to have the ability to express your pain. Not that I'm trying to put it on you, but I'm trying to let you know this is what I'm dealing with every single day. This is what I'm dealing with. And I don't need to fight the world and fight you.
I feel it.
You feel me?
I feel it.
I don't want to
Before
fight
you even
you.
say anything, I feel it.
Well, then he's going to be that great man. He's going to benefit from it. So I think that's the remedy, is that we have to listen to one another. You know what I'm saying? And as men, we have to do that as well. You know, but we don't want to listen to you put us down. We don't want to deal with that. You know what I'm saying?
You saying that have I put you down?
Not well.
Okay, I'm just saying.
It can feel like that.
For the people that's watching, did you make that statement?
It can feel like that if you're not listening. No.
Did you feel like I was putting you down?
Maybe not intentionally, but if you're not listening and hearing our pain, and when we bring up our pain, you bring up yours. It's like, yo, that is a form of abuse. You don't look at it like that, but that is a form of abuse where like, you ain't have no problem until I brought up the problem. So now I'm telling you, this is my problem. Well, shit, let me tell you about my problem. I ain't tell you about that. So damn,
But did
you
I
ain't
do
forgive me?
that? But did I do
No,
that?
you
Okay,
did- see, you
okay. So
taking it-
no,
you taking
I'm
it
just
personal.
asking.
Nah.
No, I'm just no.
I'm
That's
talking
just
about
for my.
I'm talking about the collective
Okay,
woman.
I'm just trying to just for my clarity. I don't want to ever come across that way.
So I think what he's saying is ultimately is that whenever they have an opportunity, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I just want to make an assessment, is that whenever there's an issue, whenever there's a space and a need for being able to express, the woman is saying at the same time, but what about me? What about my issue? And when he's like, I'm just trying to come in and say to you, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm going through.
Right.
So I think you get that.
Yeah,
I think
I
you
do,
understand that.
100%.
But I think also what you're saying is let's move towards a solution.
Right.
How do we do that? Do we argue? We don't argue, because I don't argue.
Don't say what's the solution while I'm telling you my pain. Because the solution in itself is me being able to speak to you about my pain.
Okay, I
Exactly.
understand that.
No,
You feel me?
I'm not saying that in that way. I'm
Just
saying
look on
solution, but
just
what
look on social media.
No.
Look on anything. Anytime a man says express any form of pain, somebody gotta say, well, the woman is dealing with it too. It's like, damn.
No, I think that you took what I'm saying in a different space. What I'm trying to say is that when we're asking about a solution, okay, now we need to implement different practices, different behaviors. Okay, so when a man comes into the room and has this conversation and he says, I need to express myself or however, and I need to do that. Now we need to teach our girls, like when he does that, baby, you need to sit back, chill out, let him do his thing, let him have this conversation. And what does that look like in a tangible sense?
She needs to see her mother doing it. I don't care what you say.
Exactly.
And you know what
She
that
has
comes
to
from?
do that.
That comes from, discipline.
Right.
There is a feminine discipline that you all will understand much better than I could ever understand.
For
it.
sure.
And then there's a masculine discipline that, that we experience, that we are able to articulate a little bit better. So unless you are bringing up or educating people on how to be disciplined, you have to have discipline to sit through a conversation. One of the things that, a master teacher might teach another person is, I don't care what I say. You have to sit until I'm done, and then you can speak. But you have to teach yourself how to take mental notes about what you want to address when it's your time to speak. You cannot have a lack of discipline and then think that you can have an effective relationship with people. It's just not going to work. And I'm talking about men. We cannot have a lack of discipline and think that we can deal with a woman effectively. It's going to lead to more problems because you are not going to know how or when to address it. And that's the same with women, right? Like we give them a pass because we talk about this idea of, well, she's just emotional. She's supposed to do that. And then when she's done with it, we are supposed to allow her to move on from that. We are not supposed to hold her in the place of emotion because we understand that emotion is temporary, right? So she gets the pass for that. But that pass is not given to a man. And I think to have healthy relationships, we have to give what we want.
Sure.
If you're not giving what you want, it may not look the same, right? Like the principles of Maya is, one of them is reciprocity. Reciprocity does not always mean me giving you exactly what you gave me.
Yes.
It's me giving you what you need, and then you giving me what I need.
Exactly.
I got you.
And so we have to understand that, but in order to get it, you have to have a level of discipline to you that will allow you to pick up on the way that this person is communicating that idea to you.
I posted something earlier this week in regards to that about women and emotion and the power that being in control of your emotion has and not being as emotional. TMI maybe, but during a particular time of the month, I try not to make any life-altering decisions because I know that my hormone levels are different and they're altered. And so I make it a conscious effort to make sure, like, if it can't wait for a day or two, then maybe it's not something that I need to make a decision on. Period. Not to say that I can't make a decision and won't. I'm actively choosing. I know how emotional your hormones can make you, but that's if you're eating in the wrong way, if you're not expressing yourself appropriately. There are a myriad of things that you can put into place there. But if you're in a harmonious state with yourself and you understand and you know and you have all this self-love and all of the things and you have an understanding about your body and so on and so forth, so you can make decisions. You can have conversations without them being so super over the top emotional
Right.
and being in that space.
That's
We
absolutely
don't
true.
understand that
Right.
from a collective state, that you don't have to be so emotional in your
You know what, Gwen?
conversation.
Exactly.
And men go through that too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was just going to say
Men
that.
are very emotional as well. We are
Yeah.
emotional. And if you're really connected with a woman, you actually will go through some of the same emotional imbalances while your woman is going through that. Depending on the moon, depending on certain things. As men, we can be moody as well, right? So when I just think that, when we talk about some solutions, is us being able to, number one, heal ourselves. No one should be our doctors. So I want to say that, like, I should not depend on you to heal me.
Right.
I have to take the steps to heal myself. And I have to be okay with who I am. This is who I am. Whether or not the society likes it, your woman likes it, the children, whoever. If I'm happy with who I am, and guess what? Who I am today may not be who I am 5 years from now. But I am happy with who I am. I don't accept the perspective of the world for me, right? And unfortunately, when you're going through certain things, even your loved ones can have a different perspective of who you are. And it's like, yo, you're the one who I tell my deepest and darkest secrets to. How do you take those vulnerabilities and use it against me in your time of emotion, in your time of anger or whatever? So now you done lost. Yo, you got to be careful. When you say certain things to men, we don't forget it. We don't forget what you said to us. We don't forget when you use certain vulnerabilities against us. And even if I'm in that relationship with you and we together and we going to Chuck E. Cheese or whatever, riding on the roller coasters, whatever, I never forgot what you said. I never forgot it. Now, maybe we can grow and evolve, and you know what I'm saying? Maybe I don't know, but I will never forget that dagger that you put in my back during the times of serious vulnerability. So I would say to women, be careful what you say. With men, be careful what you say. Be careful what you say, because that is very damaging for us. Our ego, we have egos. In Arabic is izza. We have this honor, this pride. It's just natural within us as men. We want to protect that which we love. We want to take care of that which we love, right? And this power struggle that we find in households, the household can't ever thrive. You may be surviving, but you will never thrive until we are walking in our natural purpose within our households. We don't have to have no power struggle. So it ain't no get out my house. What are you talking about? First of all, I take care of this. That's number one. And I take care of it. And what women have to understand is that how you treat your men, your children are going to treat you that way. Right? There is a certain dynamic in the family. See, a man is going to tell his children, respect your mother. It don't matter what that woman done said and how she done treated him. He going to always tell the children, respect your mother. Respect her, take care of her, right? And that is what the man is supposed to do. But a woman can't say to her children, respect men or respect your father, but they see you cursing him out.
For sure.
James Baldwin said, in the history of mankind, young people have always failed to listen, but they have never failed to imitate. See, you can say whatever you want to say, but how do they see you act towards him? That's why some of the best women and the best men, they've seen how grandma treated granddaddy. They saw that granddaddy always got the big piece of chicken. You know what I'm saying? That his seat nobody else sit in. Right? I bet you women who know how to deal with men in a respectful way, they've seen it done before.
Yeah.
Right? It didn't just come out of nowhere. And as men, the same thing. We have to see our fathers treat our mothers in that way. We have to see that. And if we didn't see it, we got to be it.
Exactly.
But how do you be it if you didn't see it?
Exactly.
Good question.
There's a
So let's put the last statements. Go ahead.
One of my favorite philosophers, his name is J. Krishnamurti, and one of the things that he talks about is how your personal curriculum is always being provided to you. So every relationship that you have is like a mirror, right? And so it's not really for you. Every relationship that you enter is not really for you to fix the other person.
Sure.
It's for you to see what you need to work on for yourself. So one of the things that we could do to, fix ourselves is just by understanding those personal curriculums that we experience before we get to where we're trying to go.
That's powerful, man. Well, I think that I want to get some final comments from the ladies.
Well, I brought a notebook that had all kinds of notes from our previous conversation that didn't really touch on what we talked about today. But this was insightful. This was healing. This was helpful. And I think that most people, if they, look past the passion in it and even appreciate the passion in it, we can get a better understanding of how we need to deal with each other within relationships. I think that this was great. I mean, we probably need to have a part 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Sure.
This is an
ongoing
conversation. She said, I don't know. I'm sorry.
No,
girl.
definitely.
What's your final thoughts?
I'm grateful that I got opportunity to be here, and this has helped me heal. I'm going through a healing process, so there's a lot of things that I know that I need to change so I can be ready for the man that the Lord is going to bring me, and he can be ready for me. So I just appreciate this conversation.
I appreciate you. If I said anything that offended you, please forgive me.
Me too.
It's all
But
love.
it's all love.
It's all love. We are so important for one another. I think that part 3 is important. I think the next show we need to focus on how do you be what you can't see. So, Melanie, you coming back?
Yeah,
Dub,
definitely.
you gonna come back, man?
Sure.
Let's
So,
do it.
Gwen, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you all so much for tuning in. It's a conversation that's absolutely necessary, and we communicate in different ways, but it's all love. As long as it's love, you can always come back to healing. But it is a conversation that we need to have so that we don't continue to raise broken adults. It says it's better to repair a child than to fix a broken adult. So we have to repair our children by being the best examples that we can be. As you heard in some of my talk and the talks of others, man, we spend our whole adult lives trying to fix what happened to us as children. The rest of our lives, we trying to heal from the trauma of what happened in that small amount of time. We're adults longer than we're children, but we spend the rest of our adult lives, every relationship that we get into, every business that we get into, is really based upon what we experienced as children. So we got to make sure that we are creating the right environment for our children to be the next and better generation than what became before them. May God bless you, protect you, and strengthen you. May God guide you. If anything happened on this show that benefited you, that is from the Most High. Anything else, that was just our crazy selves, man. All right? Appreciate y'all. Peace.